In a nod to Spencer James, we will not start with our usual introduction with just a simple hello. Welcome to Chapter 5, Elasticity. Elasticity is taking the next step beyond supply and demand to look at how a market functions. In its very base form, elasticity is asking the question, how responsive are people to change? And since we are in the world of economics, the change that we talk about most often is a price change. Basically asking, if the price goes up, do you still buy it? Now, there are 4 things that determine how elastic people are. The first is time horizon. In the short run, we're what's called inelastic. We are not responsive to change. We have to buy it no matter what. But given time to adjust our habits, we are more elastic with more time. The second thing that determines how elastic you are is the availability of close substitutes. Eggs are pretty unique. There's not really a substitute for egg, and so maybe we're more inelastic when it comes to buying eggs. But something like cereal, there's lots of choices of cereal, and therefore we have close substitutes. The next is the idea of necessities versus luxuries. Insulin, if you have diabetes, it's a necessity for life. You're going to pay any price that is charged. No matter what, you're going to buy that insulin. But luxuries, maybe if the price goes up, you buy a lot less because, again, by definition, it's a luxury. And the last one is this idea of definition of a market. What's that mean? Let's say I define the market large, food. With food, we're pretty inelastic. We need food to live. But as I narrow the market down, I can spell broader here. Broad market equals inelastic. The more narrowly defined the market, like let's say we look at Minute Maid brand orange juice, the more elastic we are because we can find substitutes for that. So there are 4 things that dictate how elastic we are. We'll leave it at that. Now, this chapter is really revolved around how do you find elasticity, and there are 3 ways to find it. The first is an equation. And this equation is percentage change, delta being the change, of quantity over the percentage change of price. If this number is greater than 1, we say you're elastic, which says that percentage change in price, or the percentage change in quantity, is greater than percentage change in price, you're elastic. Your habits change quite a bit compared to how much the price changes. If this number is... I draw my greater and less than incorrect. Mistakes here. All right, if this number is greater than... making mistakes all over the place. This is elastic. Greater than, less than, we call you inelastic. This one's saying that the price changed a lot, but you didn't change your buying habits much, the quantity, so you're inelastic. If it equals 1, if the percentage change in quantity equals percentage in price, we have a term known as unit elastic. There's the midpoint method in the book. You can read about that. If you don't have percentage change, it tells you how to put that into an equation to get that if you have 2 price points, 2 quantities. I'll leave it at that. Check it out in the book. The second way we can figure out elasticity is through graphs. And I'll talk specifically here about perfectly elastic and perfectly inelastic. So I draw my graph, price, quantity. Let's say we have an upward sloping supply curve, and I have a demand curve that is shaped like this. This, like the letter I, is perfectly inelastic. No matter what price we charge, whether it's way down here or way up here, our quantity does not change. We always buy the same amount. Maybe that's a graph for something like insulin. On the other extreme, let me change papers here. Like the letter E, if I imagine a dotted line across here, I have what's called a perfectly elastic curve. Saying that if I change the price by a penny, if I go up here, I've now sold 0. I would never lower the price, but if I raise the price higher, I sell 0. So the price stays the same because that is the quantity that I will buy at that price. If you change the price of me at all, then I stop buying what you're selling. This is perfectly elastic. You are really in tune with the price being charged. This has happened in the real world, maybe in a huge market for like wheat. If one farmer charges more for the wheat than other farmers, I'm not going to buy their wheat. So those are the extremes, the letter E and the letter I for inelastic and elastic. So can we assume then that the shape of the curve, whether it's flat or vertical, is going to dictate its elasticity? To a degree, yes, but don't rely on it too much because slope is not the same thing as elasticity, and the book kind of explains that too. Check that out. The third way to find elasticity is what I call the total revenue test. Total revenue, which we'll label TR, equals price times quantity. It's how much money you bring in, not your profit, because that includes costs, but just how much money you bring in, which is taking the quantity you sold times the price you have them. If you raise your price and your total revenue increases, we're going to say that you're inelastic, because that tells us that the change in price was bigger than the drop in quantity, because as a result of this change in price, your total revenue is rising. In fact, anytime the price and the total revenue were in the same direction, so if we went price down and our total revenue went down, again, this is inelastic because you're going to buy the same amount no matter what. And so if you lower the price, I'm not going to go out and buy more, I'm going to buy the same amount. And so I lower the price, my total revenue is going to drop. But if I raise price and my total revenue goes down, this is elastic. I am sensitive to the price. If you raise it, I'm going to drop the quantity I buy by quite a bit, so the total revenue is going to fall. And this is true for elastic, is that the price and total revenue move in opposite directions. So if I lower the price, that will actually cause my total revenue to rise. So again, elasticity is your sensitivity to change. If you're inelastic, you're not sensitive. You're going to buy the same quantity no matter what. If you're elastic, you are sensitive and you change your buying habits based on, in this case most often, is the price. There are 4 things that cause you to be elastic or inelastic. It's time horizon, availability of close substitutes, necessities versus luxury, and the definition of the market. And there's 3 ways to figure out elasticity. You can use the equation, you can use the graph, or you can use, my favorite one, is the total revenue test. Now the book also talks about the income elasticity, the cross-price elasticity, and the price elasticity of supply. Check those out too. Again, this is macroeconomics. We're not going to spend too much time on it, but check those things out. Have a great weekend, and I will see you guys on Monday. When in doubt, graph it out.